It's coming up to Christmas, and what better way to celebrate by unloading your sack early? And of course, we're on about the T28 HTC with the huge, gigantic present sack on the back of this tank. And of course, we're going to be showcasing how this tank skin is just obscene for number one, but also how the T28 HTC is actually a brilliant tank in general. And there's two gameplays in today's video, one consecutively after the other. And they've been really fantastic and really fun to play in this vehicle again. And it's actually one of my kind of, I guess, hidden tanks that I actually think is super powerful in the game, because of the fact that it has really good armor, but it also has all of the benefits that you'd expect from having a fantastic main armament. Yes, you do get the problem of not being able to traverse your turret, or at least have a turret in the first place, but once you get past the fact that it is a non-turreted tank destroyer, and you start to understand that the tank is really powerful if you learn how to avoid people being able to hit the weak points, which there are a few, and we'll talk about them as we go through. Number one, let's just get it out of the way with, it has these two bulbous R2-D2 droids on the side of the tank, which are super easy to pen if anyone really has a good shot. Now, you can avoid people being able to hit them, especially if you're going around a corner, for example, by angling steeply and putting some obstacles between you. And also, that way you can avoid them being able to hit the other side of these R2-D2 droids, which allows you to then be able to come away with some bounces, as well as basically them not being able to pen you. And talking about not being able to pen, we've come up against some of the tier 6 and 5 vehicles within this replay, which I feel absolutely awful about, because it's just not fair. These guys obviously don't know about the power of the T28 HTC and how powerful this tank can be when you start unloading the sack that's on the back, because you can see within the first little bit of time we've managed to deal block 2,300 damage, and we've also dealt 890 damage, and that's because this tank has 320 alpha, I believe, and reloads in a very short period of time, for 7.1 seconds to be exact. And of course, if you're then using the enhanced combat rations to boost it up even further, you can reduce it even more and come away with some really nice results. And you can see here up against the T150, which appears to be the kind of tank that seemed to have penned us earlier in the game, along with the T25/2, the tier 7 tank destroyer. Yeah, we've definitely come a long way within this game, and in fact we've basically been the focal point for the entire enemy team that decided to come over here, and we're basically just pressing the charge now. And although, you know, this may not be the most extravagant amount of damage that we've done, we genuinely just kind of soloed an entire flank pretty much. Like, there was not really any help from any of the teammates. Most of the tanks, granted, were lower tier, so I'm not gonna, you know, brag about being able to take out a tier 5 vehicle in a tier 7 that is basically unpennable by them. Then yeah, you know, it's nothing special. But the whole point in this video is to showcase that you don't always have to play the tanks that people think are overpowered, etc. You can play tanks like the T28 HTC and come away with results where you'll feel really rewarded. And in fact, it's probably more rewarding to play something like the T28 HTC than it is to play, for example, I don't know, a FE21 what am I even saying? An FE4201 Chieftain or the Valor, because it is just a better kind of feeling when you perform in a bad or average tank than it is when you perform in like a very good one, because a lot of the time you just put it down to the fact that you've basically played an overpowered tank, and that's kind of where I'm at with the whole playing all of these sorts of vehicles that are super OP. And yes, you know, I've played loads of them. Most of the time it's doing reviews to showcase how broken they are. But these are the sorts of gameplays and the tanks that I actually enjoy playing, and I would play if I was just not recording at all, and I was just sat down playing World of Tanks console, I would play things like the T28 HTC. The reason why I have 4 marks on the Excalibur, the tier 6 kind of medium tank destroyer. It is technically a tank destroyer, but yeah, it was because I found it novel, unique, and it was interesting, and everyone thought that the tank is crap, so why not play it and try and make it do well. So let's have a look at this next gameplay. It was literally straight after, and we are of course on Redshire. So Redshire, being the map that it is one of my favourites anyway. So when you get in a tank that is really fun to play, as well as getting a map that you really enjoy, then it's basically jobs are good. And it seems like maybe I was getting some of the Christmas luck when actually deciding to play this tank, since the matchmaker was very favourable. Granted, this is a preferential matchmaking tank, so you can only meet tier 8s in this vehicle, I believe, from what I can remember, but to be honest with you, you could play at tier 9 anyway, even if you were to platoon up with some of your friends who were maybe in tier 8 tanks that weren't preferential, or not tier 8 but tier 7 tanks that weren't preferential, you know, you could still play this vehicle. Granted, the armour would probably work less, and you would most likely be penned by basically everything, who are, especially if they're firing premium. Well, basically if they're firing premium at tier 9, you're going to basically get penned every single time. But either way, we make a misplay at the beginning. I'm thinking, you know what, like, I'm going to sit up here. We actually start getting punished. You see, one of the opponents, the Hellcat on the enemy team, actually went for the weak point of this vehicle and penned it, the big droid. We also then get penned from the front, who appears to have hit the side of our vehicle and penned, which I was a little bit angry about, that I'd lost so much hit points, but it was my fault. I'm not angry about the fact that I got hit, I'm just angry about the fact that I decided to sit out in the open and get hit for it. Now, the VK on the enemy team is of course sat out in the open, and we're just sat there going, I wonder if he'll come back out in just a second. Oh, he will. We didn't actually manage to hit, because of course when you fully aim it never hits, but when you don't, it always does. But either way, we're now after the Tiger P, who's for some reason sat side on in the middle of the open field, next to a building, of course, like, you know, it's basically a terrible idea to pull out side on from a building when you've got absolutely no other cover from the entire enemy team. It wouldn't take a brain box to work that one out, but of course Tiger P keeps doing it, and we're just waiting for the shells to align, and we manage to dump around into the side of him. Ultimately, what you want to be doing in a tank like this, because of the reload being, you know, fairly okay, you can actually do multiple shots of damage to an opponent, then yeah, you want to be retracking and continuously farming the vehicles that you come up against. So 1,520 damage done, 375 assistance is really good so far, and of course it can only go up from here. And talking about going up, we do high roll on the 45 TP there, which is a very nice shot, or 40 TP, sorry, getting way too ahead of myself. The 40 TP, of course, is not particularly the best tank, but the Tiger 131 is certainly a tank you want to be removing as quickly as possible from the game, because it's not a fun tank to come up against. We end up bouncing around there, and we know that there is one of the most broken tier 6 vehicles on the enemy team. And what do I mean by one of the most broken tier 6 vehicles in the game? I'm talking about the Hellcat 105, the pay-to-win seal clubbing tank that literally is disgusting, as well as the fact that there's a Hellcat on the enemy team. It's always very nice when you take out the seal clubber who's had 1,900 games in the Hellcat on the enemy team. For some reason, who would ever play that many games in that vehicle, because it's pretty boring to me. I have no idea, but there we go. The T50-2, of course, pushing. We decide to push to try and get some extra damage, since we've done 2,700 and it's not a bad result, but we still don't want to end it here, really. We want to push out some more damage. So T50-2, we'll try and go for the shot on the move, which Probably wasn't the best idea. Maybe I should have fully stopped and actually aimed and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, we don't do that, which ends up with not the best result at all. But either way, we could probably still win this. It's an 8 versus 5. Granted, they have the Hellcat 105 and full health and an E25 that's just disgusting anyway. Also there, we do spot the E25 as well as the Hellcat, so we know roughly where they are. The T50-2 on the enemy team deciding now to YOLO around, almost toppling over, as I always do in that vehicle. A really good tank actually, the T50-2. And now it's actually a bit of a problem, since I was kind of expecting the Tiger 1 on our team to finish off the T50-2, which he doesn't, of course. And now it's a case of, we've got to deal with the T50, since he can farm us from behind very quickly. So get him out of the game, then we can deal with whatever's left, like the Hellcat, or of course the E25. Now, if we start getting pumped in the side by the E25, it's basically curtains. Within a couple of seconds, he's going to take us out, since the reload of that tank is about 3 seconds, or like 2.5 seconds, depending on crew loadout, I believe. Basically not enough time for us to really realise before we're basically instantly taken out of the game. But either way, we then low roll on the Tiger P when I really just want to get him out of the game and deal with whoever's left. Not ideal. And of course, remember, artillery is always in the game, so they can always do the little bit of dumping around onto you and finishing you up. So yeah, it's not ideal at all. But these are the sorts of scenarios I actually like in World of Tanks, even if I end up losing them, because at the end of the day, you feel like you can win the game at every single moment within this. You know, if it's 15 against you, you're not going to be able to win. But you know, when it's 5 on 5 and you feel like, you know what, if I actually play this correctly, we're going to win. We're going to definitely have a brilliant impact and we're going to come away with a win. And especially when you're playing in a tank like this, a lot of people underestimate vehicles like the T28 HTC, or just think, oh, it's a terrible tank, they're going to be terrible, I'm just going to YOLO them, and then end up actually getting punished super hard. Now, I kind of make a misplay to a degree, although not necessarily, because I want to get behind some cover, put a bit of distance, because I know that the Hellcat 105 could come over completely out of nowhere and deal some damage, and I'm thinking, you know, I don't want to be part of that. I want to make sure that I've got at least a couple of teammates who could come around and help me out. We finish off the T50-2, which is perfect. We want to get him out of the game. That's one tank that can't just YOLO us and come around the side and get a win. Now, the E25 on the enemy team is out and about, and he appears to be on the other side of the map, along with the ISU-152. On our team, that is. There's also the tank, the artillery piece, which I'm hoping will help us out. But at this point, it's very much a case of like, oh god, they're both on full health. I don't have enough hit points to really get away with not being able to pen the first shell. I also can't take them out in one shell either, which means we're going to have to get multiple shells off, hoping that they don't manage to pen us during that period of time. And then, yeah, ultimately trying to come away with a little bit of damage extra on top of the game that we've already had. And of course, we've had 3,000 damage so far, which is a good result, to be honest. And you can see me here noticing that our artillery piece is getting shot at. So I'm thinking, how can we kind of counter this? You know, the artillery piece, we don't want to like just let him get taken out in the game. But I'm trying to think, where is the enemy team going to be? The Hellcat 105 crops up out of the back just as we're turning to try and take out the E25. And then we've got to make the quick turn to hopefully deal with the Hellcat 105, since I'm thinking, you know what, he could come from the right hand side, just YOLO straight away. Now we know it's not a good position. The E25 gets one shell into us, and of course we just nip down behind the hill as he does that. We put one shell into the Hellcat, which is perfect. And then at this point, he's obviously gearing up to hit us again. That tank does have good pen. We try and get another one into him. But yeah, it's looking less and less likely we're going to be able to take him out. And by the looks of things, our ISU is not wanting to get involved at all, and we're going to have to do something pretty quick and pretty urgent and not throw away the game if we want to win. Now the Hellcat 105 does indeed manage to hit us. I don't know where, and of course on the move at the same time, managing to pen with the heat rounds. But I'm not surprised, because the heat rounds do have like 250 pen or something ridiculous at tier 6 with 350 alpha, and of course the heat rounds do indeed on the Hellcat 105 get more damage than the standard rounds, because pay to win. But either way, yeah, really good result. We could definitely played it a little bit differently. It was a difficult game anyway to try and take out an E25 on full health when we don't have the best camo and skills, or not skills, but we don't have the best tank to be able to outspot opponents. So trying to spot an E25 is difficult anyway, as well as having the Hellcat 105 also on full health with heat rounds that can pen you if they actually aim. So either way, coming top, 3,330 damage. The E25 on the enemy team having a brilliant result as well. But yeah, the T28 HTC, a very fun tank to play, and it was definitely a Christmas gift for last year. I really enjoyed playing it, and unfortunately we don't really have that this year, and it would have been nice to see that. But either way, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I hope you have a fantastic Christmas and lead up to Christmas, of course, slightly early in this one. But either way, yeah, really thank you for all of the support throughout the entire year. It's been an amazing one. And of course, don't forget to join me on the stream every week on a Friday, of course, during the lead up to Christmas. They may be sporadic, they may not be every Friday, but yeah, thank you very much for watching all of the videos and being a massive support to the channel, and I hope you'll join me in the next video. Goodbye.